Hi, my name is Matthew Stead, and I am second violin in the Cape Philharmonic Orchestra and second violin in the Juliet String Quartet. Today I would like to talk about my journey learning about the violin and my relationship to it. More specifically, what I have learned about how to free up my playing posture. Now, my intention is not to lay down the law as I see it. After all, there is more than one way to play the violin. Rather, I just want to share my experiences and what has helped me, and hopefully this can be helpful to you too.
For a moment, recall a performance you might have seen of a good violinist. What struck you about their playing? Was it their overall tone quality, or the vibrato? Though each violinist is different in some way, all good violinists have one thing in common. They have physical freedom while performing. They play as if using their entire bodies. It seems as if this freedom of movement also allows the violinist to fully express the music, like it flows through them.
Well, the natural question is, how? How do they do that? To begin answering that question, we should talk about what posture means when it comes to playing the violin. Is it a fixed thing, or should it be something dynamic that flows? Is it really that important? In my time as a music student, there were many pivotal aha moments that collectively brought me to my current understanding on the topic. I have narrowed these down to 6 experiences. This situation involved the method known as Alexander technique. You might have heard of it, but in case you haven't, Alexander technique is used to develop holistic body awareness, meaning to become aware of your body's stance as a whole, as one unit. And this can be very useful for musicians. In fact, Alexander technique specialists help musicians all over the world. Such a specialist was visiting my music department and giving lessons to students there for a few weeks. It was recommended to me that I go sign up for a lesson. So I did. It was in this lesson that, for the first time, it registered in my mind that my breath and my proper body movement had a measurable impact on the sound. Despite the small breakthrough, I found the overall atmosphere of the class to be weird, and I didn't want to believe that such trivial things could make all the difference in the world. I was quite firmly in the mindset that continuing to practice hard would get me the best results. So it followed that I immaturely shrugged off Alexander technique classes. I can tell you though, with certainty, that my view of the violin and music making would have changed for the better if I had stuck with these classes. Today, I have new respect for this method. As I said, Alexander technique deals with the whole body and challenges the traditional notion of fixed posture. Let's look at that, without the violin for the moment.
Of course, we start with the foundation, the feet. We do not want to stand too far apart, nor do we want to stand too close. So we choose shoulder width. Next, we want to have slightly bent knees that have to feel springy. Make sure your torso is straight, we do not want any twisting. Shoulders down and level with each other, very important. Make sure your arms are hanging heavy from your shoulders.
We can grab the violin now, but we're still not going to play a note yet. What I want to say next might seem super obvious, but it is so important. The setup of the violin, in terms of shoulder rests and chin rests, plays a bigger role in our playing than we might realize. Are we using the best setup for each of us as an individual with the means available to us? When I was starting out as a music student, I couldn't have answered a yes to that question. The chin rest on my violin looked okay, but I remember not being entirely happy with it. However, I just learned to ignore the discomfort that it brought me. It didn't take long for my new teacher to realize that this chin rest was a problem for me. And so I took my violin to a luthier and tried out a couple of chin rests that he had to offer. He described my chin rest as a torture device. Couldn't believe my ears. Needless to say, the new chin rest I bought that day was immeasurably better. Around the same time, I was using a Wolf shoulder rest that had seen better days. It didn't impact my playing as negatively as the old chin rest, but it did not feel 100% stable, prone to slipping. We shouldn't underestimate the effect this has psychologically during a performance. So the question is, what is the best chin rest? The best shoulder rest? To tell you the truth, I can't answer that because this is a highly individual matter. Everybody has a different anatomy and the setup needs to fit you. For example, some may find it better to substitute a shoulder rest for a foam pad, and that provides less of the distance between the shoulder and the violin. And for others, a chin rest that sits in line with the violin's tailpiece, more in the center, might be better. Whichever setup we choose, the point is that the violin should not be pushed up by the shoulder. This is one legitimately dangerous habit. Remember the dynamic stance, and keep in mind that the chin rest and or the shoulder rest is going to help us to play the violin with the whole body as one unit. Finally, we can pick up the bow. The aspect of bow technique that I struggled with as a student was how to get a big sound out of the violin. I tended to apply too much pressure downwards, vertically onto the string, instead of putting arm weight into the bow, thereby applying pressure from side to side, or horizontally. I didn't fully understand this concept because I didn't understand the sensation. In other words, I didn't know what it felt like. When we use arm weight, we can draw the sound out of the violin by making the string vibrate very freely from side to side. Well, how did I get to this understanding? The idea that was a revelation to me was this, that the bow arm can hang from the bow. One more thing that we will want to check when bowing is that our wrists and fingers are relaxed. Is the thumb supple and free to move? Is the pinky finger resting lightly on the stick? The fingers should be able to move freely so that they can softly react to changes in direction of the bow. Another way to improve our bow arm involves the left side of the body. Have you ever been unsure about why a teacher tells you not to point your scroll downwards, like so? The reason is that we want to create a stable surface for the bow to rest against. When we apply weight into the bow, aiming for a large sound, we need the violin to support the bow from underneath. If the violin slopes downward underneath the bow's arm effort will be wasted. If there is a stable support under the bow, on the other hand, we actually don't need to make such an effort to create that sound, that resonance that we're looking for. This concept follows on from the two previous points. So a good setup and a proper bow arm action are crucial for this. Again, it is absolutely crucial that we keep the violin in a stable support position without pushing up the left shoulder. The support can be maintained without any unwanted shoulder tension, as long as your playing stance is correct. About left-hand technique, there was one aspect that took a long time to fall into place for me as a music student. And that was how to have good finger action without creating tension in the hand, especially with double stops. I think I used more pressure to stop the strings than was necessary at times. The concept that helped me to change my finger action for the better was more speed and less pressure. You could think of it like the hammer hitting the string inside of a piano. The hammer strikes the string with speed, but doesn't remain pressing against the string. In the same way, we throw down the fingers from the base knuckle of each finger, but after hitting the string, we only apply as much pressure as necessary. In general, we want to avoid tension in both hands. When you purposefully decide to have a soft, tension-free left hand, do a check to make sure that your right hand is equally tension-free before you start playing. The last point that I want to talk about is the control of breathing. As I mentioned before, I initially discovered how important and relevant breathing can be in those first Alexander Technique classes. This idea grew in importance in my life, and I found that awareness of your breath comes along with a better awareness of your body while playing. These two directly influence one another. When in stress mode, the breath feels like it's right up here, high up near your throat. And in relaxed mode, it's down in your diaphragm, where it's supposed to be. I'm sure you've heard the phrase, fake it till you make it. When in a performance situation, we can actively change the mode of our breathing. We can change it from up here and move it down to the diaphragm, and so mimicking a relaxed mode of breathing. So at first it will feel like we're faking it, but soon this almost tricks the body into believing that you're relaxed. So hence the phrase, fake it till you make it. Again, I hope there is something that you might find helpful from my experiences and my ways of fixing these problems. And remember that we are trying to get away from feeling stuck when we play. And we want to feel that we are able to move and move in a way that helps the violin to sing and helps us to feel free and ultimately helps us to express the music freely. Thank you.